Top of the afternoon to you, Lorata, and to your viewers as well. I mean, it's a bit of a bittersweet ending, isn't it? It's like you get told that you are fine, but then obviously you get pinched by the fact that your GDP does not look necessarily great. But to be honest with you, we were not necessarily surprised. We did see those numbers at the beginning of the year when the mining sector took a serious hit with regards to the commodity prices that were just out of sorts. And so what continued to happen, therefore, is that we started to see the price of oil also decline, hurting some of the manufacturing side of business. And we also, if you want to even put it even further, you can include some of the negative outlook in terms of the global market, China being particularly an interesting one, which has obviously declined in terms of demand. And so that has hit South African manufacturers, it has hit South African mining companies. It's little to say about also the blue economy, which everybody's all excited about, which also took a little bit of a nosedive. So a really bad bag of results that come out of these particular sectors, and that seems to have hurt a lot of our GDP numbers. And if you look at the quarter-on-quarter as well as the year-on-year, nothing really positive to talk about. If you look at the outlooks, what people were expecting, surely this was not anything close to what we had in our minds.
Just like you've mentioned, quarter to quarter, year on year, it's been quite unstable, rather, from 2014 when it ventured into its negativity territory. And also in the first quarter of 2014, we see that the GDP fell to a negative 1.6% and then recovered in the following months. Second quarter of 2015, again, a decline of a negative 2%. For us now to the first quarter of 2016 to have a decline of a negative 1.2%. Clive, just for the benefit of our viewers, can you break it down for us? What does this mean for our South Africa's economy?
There's two things that I think I want to share with you. The first one is the fact that we are not doing it great a lot. We're not doing enough to actually stabilize our economies. Despite the fact that we know that there's been intervention by government to try and inspire businesses to continue to reinvest back into the economy, it's not happening. We're not creating jobs. So we're not surprised in actual fact with these numbers, because not so long ago we knew that the unemployment rate had increased. When that increases, it means that there's less productivity. And so that's what hurts our GDP. When we don't have enough people on the ground working, it means that business is not coming in. It means that business is not hiring. It's actually cutting down on jobs. We looked at companies such as Telkom. We look at the mining companies who have been cutting down and shedding jobs to try and maintain themselves. So this is evidence of that. When you look at those numbers, that's evidence of that. When you refer, by the way, to the 2015 last quarter, the fourth quarter of 2015, very interesting that we did pick up slightly by 0.6%. And I can tell you what causes that normally in the last quarter of the year. It's because people do get jobs then, because we are going through the festive season. And so what happens is the economy just takes up a little bit more people. Businesses take a bit more extra people to come and help out with the business and the expenditure that takes place during that period. And so there's that 0.6 it's a very it could be very deceiving, because it makes you think that things are actually getting better, while at the same time we understand that it's festive season. The last thing I want to mention that people should understand is that the only way you can sustain an economy, the only way you can do that is by supporting and strengthening small to medium enterprises. If you look at South Africa's report on small businesses that have now gone bust, that have disappeared out of the rate, it is shocking. Close to about 85% of those businesses are non-existent, that were registered only in 2014. So that tells you that even small business cannot sustain itself. The only way you can do it is you need to support these businesses. We need to transform our economy. We need to work with the National Development Plan, which the Minister has been talking about. We need to implement it. We not just not talk about it. We need to implement it and see its effects, so that we can help to sustain our economy and have a better GDP for the rest of the year.
All right, thank you, Clive. I'm just going to ask you to just hold on the line there for the next conversation. Right now, David van Wyk, mining analyst, joins us on the line. David, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. David, we are right now talking about the breaking GDP figures that are now on a negative. What is your take on that?
Well, I think that, the South African economy has very serious structural problems, and unless it deals with these structural problems, it is not going to be able to come out of the current malaise that it's experiencing. 80% of small businesses in South Africa fail within the first 3 years of starting up. To talk about small businesses in our economy is very, very difficult, given that the economy is highly monopolized. You've got 5 companies dominating coal mining in this country. You've got 3 companies dominating platinum mining in this country. So within that context, unless you begin to deal with that structural problem of monopoly dominance within the mining sector and within the economy as a whole, because you've got 5 banks monopolizing the financial sector, you've got 3 or 4 retailers dominating the retail sector. You cannot talk about small business if there's no space for small business to grow into. So long as the old monopoly economy that we inherited in 1994 stays in place, we are not going to go anywhere. And, the GDP and all these figures will just continue going down. There's a huge problem with the GDP figures because mining makes up almost half of all our exports, and most of our imports actually services that industry, and most of our financial sector is structured around that particular industry. So for GDP in mining to be below 7-8% per annum is a huge problem, because it doesn't reflect the extent to which this sector dominates the economy.
Thank you very much, David, for your views. That was David van Wyk, the mining analyst.